how ironic it is that you have a young, white, privileged
I
leftist
know.
telling an elderly old black man who's been in the house for like I think since the 90s, okay,
Hmm.
who grew up in the 60s, telling him that like, oh, he's not left enough, he's not progressive enough, he's being too moderate. Like, just imagine the irony in this situation here.
Hubris too. I mean, God.
Yes,
Oh my
yes.
God.
Medicine, we're not going to win. Now let's just pause for a moment and think about how idiotic what they are saying is. Jim Clyburn is saying if you run on Medicare for all, you're not going to win. Has he seen a single poll? Medicare for all is overwhelmingly popular. There are some polls that show a majority of Republicans support Medicare for all, but in almost every single poll, a plurality of Republicans support it.
So it's
Yeah,
just
this is my big
so
question.
well. First, it's so funny. They all point to there's this one poll by the
Oh my
Hill
God, it's one poll.
that I've seen. I don't know if there's, but this is the one I've always seen. There's this one poll by the Hill, which is the media organization
Yeah.
that showed. I'm trying to remember. It was like I think I don't. He might show it in the video that shows that like 50, a little bit more than 50% said that they were of Republicans said that they were in favor of Medicare for all, and it's so funny because first of all, this is like the sample size is like 300 people, so I don't know. You got to look at multiple
What?
polls here.
Oh
You don't
my
want to just
God.
you don't really
Holy
want to
shit.
you don't
300
want to just
people.
bank everything on a single poll, right? As we've learned from polling from our elections. But more importantly than that, there's two things that are more importantly than that. First of all, this is a total bullshit argument that he should know if he actually looked at the polls, right?
Mhm.
His argument is Democrats should do what is popular in the polls and they will win more seats. That is his argument, okay?
Mhm.
In every single poll where they ask people if they want Medicare for all or a public option, the public option overwhelmingly beats Medicare for all in
Really?
every single poll among both Democrats and Republicans.
Wow. Because
Okay.
that was my question.
Yes. Every time that both are asked, the public option, which is what Joe Biden ran on, wins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
People don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. They don't want to
right.
put all their eggs in and especially they don't want to put all their eggs in the socialist basket.
Right. And it makes more sense logically that you're going to say, okay, people who want Medicare for all, they'll still vote for someone if they have to choose between like a public option and nothing. They're still going to go with the public option, people.
Yeah.
Because it's like that's like 2/3 of what they want. But people that don't want complete government control of medical care, but want a public option, they're not necessarily going to vote for Medicare for all over nothing.
Right. Yeah, they're going to take nothing. I feel I'm in that camp. Like I'm terrified of the whole idea that are you kidding me? The government can't even run a fucking election.
So that's the first issue. This is total bullshit because the public option, which I'm sure you can find this guy's rallying against at some point in his videos, the public option is always more popular than Medicare for all in every poll. That's the first point. The second point is that, as we talked about earlier, no one knows what the fuck Medicare for all is.
Totally. This was my contention with Kyle Kalinske because he said that European style healthcare was the public was Medicare for all, and I was like, no, it's not. European style medical care is the public option.
Right.
They haven't made private health insurance or private health care illegal,
or it's even completely different from both of those. Because I mean, like in England, the government controls the actual, like the doctors actually work for the government.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is a plan no one in America is proposing anything remotely close to that.
Yes. Yeah.
So, no, but so, and it's funny because whenever they do these polls, they're like, "Oh, are you in favor of Medicare for all?" Like, if it's just like, it's all dependent on how they word the question. Because people are like, "Oh, I'm in favor of Medicare. I'm in favor of universal healthcare. That sounds nice." But then when they like ask more specific questions about like, well, do you want like the government to control the system? Do you want to make private insurance illegal? When you start breaking it down, everyone starts opposing that part of it. They're like, oh no, I don't want any of that stuff. And actually, Sean, Actual Justice Warrior, did a good video on this where he was talking, because Kyle Kalinske was bringing up the same points, and he shows one of these polls where it shows how when they break down the question of Medicare for all into like, do you want private insurance to be illegal, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you see all the votes just completely change. Everyone starts opposing it because no one knows. When you just ask a random fucking normie on the street, do you support Medicare for all? They don't know what the fuck that means.
I would love to get this guy on our show and go through those polls with him just to say, so what do you think of this poll here? Like, what's your take on these questions? This poll seems to be a little bit different than the narrative you're continually putting out there. I mean, God bless them that they want universal health care. Like you and I both want some form of universal health care, but the details matter.
Public option is universal health care.
Yeah, and the details matter. These people pitch themselves as like the policy wonks. It's like, what?
Yes. But this is the problem when you're driven by an ideology instead of trying to figure out what is true. Because everything is to be warped to the idea of like, I want these leftist agenda pieces passed. Like, yeah. And so since I can craft a narrative and say, well, these are popular in the polls, that's what I'm going to do. Like, for example, hypothetically, if the polls show that Medicare for all wasn't popular, he just would make a different argument. He'd have the exact same opinion. He would just make a different argument crafted to suit that narrative.
Do you want to know what it would be? I know exactly what it would be. The corporations are spending all this money to turn public opinion around on the polls, and these people don't know the real truth about it.
All these polls are controlled by corporations.
Totally.
Greedy corporations, which don't want to give you, free medical care, okay? They're all connected to the pharmaceutical company. Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
It doesn't matter. This is all after the fact thought reasoning.
Yeah.
Because surprise, surprise, people want healthcare. They want good things for themselves. People do not like their employer-based health insurance, especially during a pandemic when they're losing their jobs. And as a result, they're losing the...
I think that's actually not even true. I think most polls, which I find, first of all, I find this shocking. But most polls show that people say they're happy with their current medical care or medical insurance, I mean, which I find baffling, but I'm pretty sure that's what all the polls say.
Well, a lot of people, I think, haven't actually had to use their health insurance.
Maybe that's the issue.
They're like, if you're using it basically for regular checkups and stuff like that, sure, that's fine. It's when you get into some sort of medical situation that all of a sudden things completely turn around. And thankfully, those situations are rare.
Right.
Because that's how life is. But when they happen, I think that's when people
I guess that's true, because you can get, at least where I live, you have access to getting pretty cheap health insurance plans.
Yeah.
Well, relatively cheap, relatively cheap health insurance plans, and that are totally fine if you're like never like have to go to the emergency room, or have any like critical sickness.
So if you're paying for it simply for peace of mind, you're like, yeah, it works. I have peace of mind.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
The health insurance that's tied to their employer. So the argument that they're saying here is, look, if you adopt these really popular policies that 55 to 70% of the electorate supports,
like the public option, which is what they did adopt,
that's a losing strategy. Do they even hear themselves?
Also, this is a total misdirection, because if we go back to what Abigail Spencer said and what Jim Kleinberg said, they weren't saying, Medicare for all is killing our party. What did they say? They said
the police.
Defund the police.
I know.
Is killing our party. And it's funny because I told you, if you go on the New York Times, you can look at exit polls for every state. And and while we were like talking, I was opening up a bunch of like quote unquote like red swing states like Ohio and Florida, and all the people that voted Republican, their two big issues are the economy and crime and safety. Crime and safety. Okay.
Yeah.
Healthcare policy. You know what healthcare policy is like? That's like the bottom. They don't give a fuck about health. Democrats care about healthcare policy. Republicans, according to these exit polls, don't give a fuck about healthcare policy.
It's straight out of Maslow.
Right.
It's like you start caring about health insurance once people start shooting in your windows.
so it's what this total misdirection is. You have the quote unquote evil moderate Democrats are saying defund the police is killing our party, and then he somehow switches it to Medicare for all.
Yeah. That's all they talk about.
I
don't know about this guy, but I know Kyle Kalinski's like obsessed with healthcare.
Yep. Oh, you want to know what's hilarious too? I didn't even put this together until literally this second.
Mm-hmm.
What Kyle Kalinski's a Justice Democrat. Okay.
Oh, I know.
Do you remember what was the entire mission statement and creation of the Justice Democrat?
To get people elected. They got AOC elected.
No. Like what was the founding principle for the Justice Democrat?
I'm not a Justice Democrat.
It was to get money out of politics.
Oh my God.
That was the founding idea. Okay.
Oh yeah. That's their big idea.
Do you know that Joe Biden, this isn't going to happen, but do you know that Joe Biden's platform proposes a constitutional amendment to remove money from politics?
Really?
Yes. Okay.
Wow. I had no idea.
I don't know. No one talks about it. No one talks about it. Okay. So to make it clear, Joe Biden has Kyle Kalinski's founding principle in his platform. He wants a constitutional amendment to get money out of politics.
Wow, that's crazy.
Hey, Kyle Kalinske still fucking hates Joe Biden. It still calls him evil and a neoliberal and a shill and all this other stuff. Completely.
Well, he's right about that part.
Not the neoliberal part, but
not the neoliberal part, but he's right about the shill and the.
Well, okay, but that's every politician. So